Imagine this. You're living in Alaska. It's a clear, quiet morning. Suddenly, alarms sound at NORAD command. Radar screens light up. Russian bombers, escorted by fighter jets, are closing in on the Alaskan Air Defense Identification Zone. Within minutes, American F-22s scramble into the skies. Tankers fuel up. Command aircraft take control. A total of 9 U.S. aircraft are airborne, racing to intercept the Russian warplanes before they come too close. This isn't a scene from a movie. This is breaking news. And it's not the first time. In fact, it's the third incident this month, and the 9th time this year that Russian aircraft have been detected flying near Alaska. So what's going on? Why is Russia sending bombers and fighters so close to U.S. airspace? And why does Alaska, of all places, keep finding itself at the center of this dangerous game? To understand the significance of today's interception, we need to step back. Alaska might look remote on a map, but in military terms, it's one of the most important pieces of U.S. territory. Just across the Bering Strait lies Russia. At its closest point, Alaska and Russia are separated by only about 55 miles of water. That's less than an hour's flight time for a bomber. During the Cold War, Alaska was the front line. American radar stations, fighter squadrons, and missile defense systems were built here to detect and stop Soviet bombers long before they could reach the continental United States. That mission continues today, and that's where NORAD comes in, the North American Aerospace Defense Command. A joint U.S.-Canadian organization, NORAD has been watching the skies since 1958. Its job, detect, track, and intercept any potential threat, whether it's a rogue aircraft, a missile launch, or even a foreign drone. Every time Russian planes approach, NORAD is the one keeping watch. Now let's look at what happened in this latest incident. NORAD reports that 2 Russian bombers and 2 Russian fighters were detected operating inside the Alaskan Air Defense Identification Zone. Immediately, NORAD scrambled 9 U.S. aircraft for fighters, for tankers, and a command and control plane. The mission was clear: intercept the Russian jets, identify them visually, and escort them away from the zone. According to NORAD, the Russian aircraft never entered U.S. or Canadian sovereign airspace. They stayed in international airspace, which technically makes the flights legal. But legality isn't the same as harmless. Every one of these flights carries a message, and the timing of this one is especially important. Just days ago, former President Donald Trump said he believed Ukraine could win back all the territory it lost to Russia. That is a sharp change from his earlier comments, where he suggested Ukraine might have to make concessions to end the war. At the same time, NATO issued a warning to Moscow. Any breach of NATO airspace will be met with force. This comes after Russian drones were shot down over Poland, and Estonia reported Russian fighters intruding into its skies. Trump even went further, saying NATO countries should shoot down Russian planes if they cross into Allied airspace. But when asked if the U.S. would back NATO allies in such a scenario, his answer was more cautious. It depends on the circumstance. Now, think about this from Moscow's perspective. On one hand, Trump is publicly saying Ukraine can win back its land. On the other, NATO is promising to defend its skies. So what does Russia do? It flexes its muscles. It sends bombers near Alaska, not to attack, but to remind Washington that Russia isn't backing down. This isn't new behavior. During the Cold War, Soviet bombers routinely tested U.S. defenses by flying near Alaska and Canada. After the Cold War ended, the flights slowed, but they never truly stopped. In recent years, especially since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, these flights have picked up again. For Russia, it's about posturing, showing strength, proving they can still reach America's doorstep whenever they choose. For the U.S., every interception is about demonstrating readiness, showing that no matter how many times Russia tries, American jets will be there to meet them. But there's another layer here, the human factor. Imagine being a pilot on one of those U.S. fighters. You scramble into the sky, climb to altitude, and approach 2 massive Russian bombers with fighters escorting them. You know they're armed. You know one wrong move could escalate the situation. And yet, you have to fly close enough to visually confirm the aircraft, record their details, and escort them until they turn back. One mistake, one miscommunication, and the incident could spiral into something much more dangerous. And that's what makes these encounters so nerve-wracking. While officials insist they're routine, history tells us that routine can turn deadly in an instant. During the Cold War, both sides lost aircraft in close encounters. Sometimes accidents, sometimes shoot-downs. Each time, the world held its breath. Now add today's global tensions into the mix. The war in Ukraine rages on. NATO is more united than it's been in decades. Russia is desperate to show it won't be intimidated. And the US? It's walking a tightrope, showing strength while trying to avoid outright war. So what happens next? There are a few possibilities. 1. This was just another routine Russian flight. A show of force, nothing more. They'll keep coming, NORAD will keep intercepting, and the pattern will continue. 2. Russia is deliberately escalating. Each flight comes closer, stays longer, or flies with more aircraft. The goal? To wear down U.S. forces, test response times, and gather intelligence on American defenses. 3. An accident happens. A Russian jet flies too close. A U.S. pilot misinterprets a maneuver. Shots are fired. Suddenly, what was routine becomes an international crisis. That's why these incidents matter. They're not just about Alaska. They're about the fragile balance between two nuclear powers. And here's something to consider. Alaska isn't just a front line. It's also home to America's missile defense system. Fort Greely, Alaska, houses ground-based interceptors designed to shoot down incoming long-range missiles. If Russia ever wanted to probe America's defenses, Alaska is the place they'd start. So when Russian bombers fly near Alaska, it's not random. It's symbolic. It's strategic. And it's a warning. Meanwhile, Trump says he's arranging direct talks between Putin and Ukraine's President Zelensky. But Moscow has shown no interest. Instead, it has intensified its attacks on Ukraine, signaling it's not ready for negotiations. So where does this leave us? The U.S. keeps intercepting. Russia keeps flying. NATO keeps warning. And the world watches, hoping none of these encounters turns into something far worse. So here's the big question for you. Are these Russian flights just routine muscle flexing, or are they the early signs of a much bigger confrontation? One thing's for sure. The skies over Alaska aren't just quiet northern airspace. They're the front line of a dangerous, high-stakes chess match between Washington and Moscow. And every interception is another move in that game. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over.